of fantasy playoffs start next week in most leagues. If you're watching this video, you most likely made the playoffs in your league. If so, congrats to you. To ensure you win your league, I'm going to highlight 6 players you need to stash for the fantasy playoffs. Before I do that, though, I'm going to need you to hit the like button on this video and subscribe to our channel at 4for4. By this point in the season, it's slim pickings on waivers, so I'm going to point out 6 players in total, 1 at each position of quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, kicker, and defense. You should target on waivers this week to aid you in your quest for fantasy gold. No Michael Carter, no running back by committee. In the Jets' first full game without Carter taking snaps at running back, Zonovan Knight led the way, recording a team-high 15 carries. All other Jets backs combined for just 5 carries. Knight also tacked on 5 catches on 5 targets, finishing the game with 118 yards on 22 touches. Now, 2 straight weeks, Knight has led the team in snap share, accounting for 48% of snaps in Week 12 and 55% in Week 13. The usage trends point to Knight being the team's #1 running back in Carter's absence. He's still available in 53% of Yahoo leagues, but don't expect it to stay that way. Any fab you have left should be spent on acquiring Knight this week. Jets backs also have one of the more favorable fantasy schedules from weeks 15 to 17. DJ Chark has resumed his #2 wide receiver role in the Lions offense upon returning from an ankle injury he suffered earlier this season. In the first 3 weeks of the season prior to getting hurt, he was second on the team in targets with 18 behind Amon-Ra St. Brown. Only 2 receivers have recorded double-digit targets for the Lions in the past 2 weeks, St. Brown and Chark. A 5-catch, 98-yard performance in Week 13 provided a promising outlook for Chark's role in the offense going forward, and he is someone Jared Goff trusts. In an offense with few reliable options in the passing game, Chark can provide plenty of flex appeal in the fantasy playoffs. He's rostered in just 16% of Yahoo leagues. While it might be dicey to start Chark next week in a tough matchup against the Jets, the Lions receivers have the 8th easiest fantasy schedule in weeks 16 and 17. Mr. Irrelevant, no more. Purdy was forced to step in for Jimmy Garoppolo in Week 13 after the 49ers quarterback suffered what was later diagnosed as a broken foot and is now out for the season. Purdy acclimated himself well, tossing 210 yards and 2 touchdowns and scoring more fantasy points than the likes of Aaron Rodgers, Ryan Tannehill, Kirk Cousins, and Russell Wilson. A talented group of pass catchers in the likes of George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, and Christian McCaffrey doesn't hurt. The 7th easiest fantasy schedule for quarterbacks during the playoffs makes Purdy an appealing fantasy streamer. We've seen a number of unheralded players wind up as fantasy heroes over the years, such as Tyler Huntley last year. And Purdy could turn into a fantasy winner himself in 2022. He's an appealing target in superflex leagues where there might not be that many quarterback options to choose from. Fantasy tight end is such a wasteland that even though MyCole Pruitt caught just 1 pass for 7 yards, the fact that his 1 reception was a touchdown means Pruitt was a top fantasy tight end in Week 13. Since Kyle Pitts was lost to the season, Pruitt leads Falcons tight ends in targets and has scored a touchdown in 2 straight games. That might be all you need for the tight end position. Plus, the Falcons face the Cardinals in Week 17, and thanks to our own Jennifer Aiken's research, we know how bad they are at allowing fantasy points to tight ends this season, allowing 8 tight ends to finish as a fantasy tight end 1 this year. Need a kicker? Chase McLaughlin has scored 7 or more fantasy points in 3 of his last 4 games and has the easiest fantasy schedule for kickers during the playoffs. Sometimes the analysis is just that easy. Kansas City has the easiest fantasy playoff schedule defense, but they're rostered in 65% of leagues, so they might not be available to pick up. If they are, though, add and stream them in weeks 15 through 17. If they're not available, the Detroit Lions have the 2nd easiest fantasy schedule defense for the fantasy playoffs, and they're practically free, rostered in just 2% of Yahoo leagues. In 3 of their past 5 games, the Lions defense scored at least 9 fantasy points, and their playoff opponents, the Jets, the Panthers, and the Bears, allow an average of 8.6 schedule-adjusted fantasy points per game to opposing defenses, with the Bears and Panthers giving up 9.1 and 9.9 points respectively. Good luck to you in your journey of becoming a fantasy football champion this year. If you need more waiver wire help, make sure you watch John Daigle go over his top targets and tips for the week, as well as read his waiver article on 4for4.com with his in-depth analysis. Thanks for watching.